sit, sit. This is Stanley. Stanley is a pointer, as you can see, and he does not have a lot of attention for his humans when he gets really aroused about certain things. So in this video, I'm going to go over some tips and tricks on how you can get your dog to be tapped in and dialed into the handler as opposed to everything but that. So I'm going to be using a clicker for this. Now a clicker is a very precise sound that you can use to indicate to the dog that it did what you wanted it to do. Now the one thing you never do with a clicker is it's not a remote control. And in order to use this, you need to first create what we call a classically conditioned response. And the way I do this is I have a bunch of treats in my hand. I'm going to throw it on the ground. I know it's a little bit hard for you to see on this concrete, but I promise there's a treat. So what I'm doing is I'm throwing him on the ground. Every time he licks it up, I'm clicking to create what's known as a classically conditioned response. And when you click, try to be precise like this. Try not to go, because that gets a little bit confusing for him. All right, so this is a teardrop shaped clicker. You can get this on Amazon for about 3 or 4 of these for like $5. A lot of different types of clickers out there. The clicker means you just did what I wanted. I'm going to get a treat in your mouth as fast as I possibly can. So what I want you to do is when we're out and about, when we're in the house, excuse me, I should say, Stanley is very dialed in his guardians because there's not a lot of extra distractions. I've smelled everything in this house. I've licked everything. I know where everything is. Sit. Remember to always say the command word after the treat goes in the mouth. So what we want to do is we want to start building in some practice. So Stanley practices checking in with his handler. And a great way to do that is by incorporating a little clicker training. So now I just did this with a client whose dog fence fought. It would go and charge the fence. So one of the things that I had her do, and we're going to walk around in the yard here in a sec, but is to do some clicker training. Now she found that when her neighbor dogs are out, the dog is so aroused it won't pay attention to her. So what I do as a dog psychologist is I always try to create a situation where it's the easiest version of that activity for the dog. How can I distill it and boil it down and peel back layers and elements until it's super easy? Then I want the dog to start practicing and working in that super easy environment until they are performing the way that I want them to perform. Then I gradually start adding in the elements or increasing the level of difficulty until we get ourselves back to the way that we got another dog that's going to appear here in a second. Neighbor dog, they share the yard. And so basically, hey, look at that. Look at those ears. That was great. So basically, what we want the dog to do is practice focusing on us. This is actually going to be great. Stanley. With the other dog here, this is a good distraction. Now he's interested in his buddy. So, come. So, what's her name?
That's Solo.
Solo. That's a good-looking dog. Hey, Solo, you're a little bit, yeah, you can sniff my butt. I'm not going to try to pet you. I can read your energy. So, see, he's offering a sit. So, my client that has the fence-fighting dog, the dog will do this stuff outside as long as there's no dogs. When there's dogs outside, it can't do it. So what I have her do is I have her go inside and practice in the house, right in the kitchen, which is where the back door to the yard is. So sit, 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 sit. Solo's like, I can do this too. Down, down, down. And so she does about 5 or 6 of these in the house. And then she does one at the door, then she goes right out the door and does another one right there, and another one, and then she gradually starts working in the yard, which is what we're going to do here in a second. Now, Solo, that's not a good example. That was a little bit fearful. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and walk over here. And so what you want to do is just kind of walk around. You can follow me with the camera if you could, watch the landmines. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait, because see, now I have the dog's full attention. So I don't want to practice this now because the whole point is to teach the dog to give me the attention when it's distracted. So right now, what I would have you do is just have a bunch of treats, walk around your yard and just ignore the dogs and wait for the dog to kind of get distracted and then ask for a come. When it comes to you, click and give it. Now I could have clicked for this. That would be the passive training we talked about off camera, but I'm not asking for that. Right now the dog's like, I know you got treats. I'm going to go through everything I can to get those treats. Well, it's the treats doing what I want when I want, not when you want. And so basically we just kind of walk around a little bit and wait for him to lose interest, and he might just stay interested in me the whole time we're doing it. That's fine. He's got a good focus as a hunting dog, but when he's focused on something else, that's when it's a problem. He won't pay attention to his guardian, one in particular. There we go. Sit. Sit. And sit 2. Sit. All right, so And now we got another dog that's going to come. So this is going to make it a little bit more distracting if we can get, you can call the other dog. So what we're looking for is we want to put the dog in a situation where it is distracted and then have it practice. But instead of coming back to us or paying attention to us, but instead of being distracted like 1,000,000%, we want just slightly distracted right there. So one away. Stanley, come. Come. So I waited for him to lose interest, like right there. Stanley, come. Come. So as soon as I expect to sit for a dog if I'm asking him to come. So basically I waited for him to lose interest. As soon as he walked away, that's when I called him. And make sure you say come, don't just say Stanley like I did. I didn't do a great job. And so basically what we're doing is helping him practice listening to us when he is distracted with other things. Now the backyard is the easiest environment that you're going to have outside your home. So when you do this, having the other dogs, letting them play, because one of the problems he has is he's gotten into some fights in the dog park. He's kind of tried to dominate dogs. He had a problem with another dog having a ball too and things along those lines, which is why it's usually not a good idea to have balls in the dog park or any sort of toys. But when they're playing, this is a great time to be out here with your clicker and interrupt the play. Ask them to come. They both come and come. And then you stop and they only get that one treat and then they have to go back to play and do something else. So this would be helpful. You can do this in a couple capacities. You can just come out here and walk your yard, or just sit out here in the yard, sunbathe a little bit, and he loses interest. Come. He comes over to you, you click and give him the treat. Or you can walk the yard like what I was doing, and every once in a while, when he loses interest, you ask him for a sit or a down, or whatever the tricks and commands that are that he knows, and you reward him for that. And then the second capacity would be when these dogs are out here, let them play around. And if they're like coming up to you and they're sitting like this, I don't have any attention, look at your phone, check some emails, wait, become boring. Eventually, they'll get bored and they'll start playing with each other. And when they do, or going after the chickens or whatever the case may be, that's when you practice opportunity to come back. So there we go. So Stanley walked away. Stanley, come. Come. So what we're doing, how about a sit for you? Can you give me a sit? Solo, sit. Solo's a little bit fearful. Here, buddy, I'll just give you a free one. So basically what we want to do is we want to help the dog practice focusing on his handler. So the first stage is to do it out in the backyard, just walking around. Stanley, sit. Sit. There you go. There it is, buddy. Okay, so the first stage is do this, and try to do this like each one of you guys do this once a day. You're about 10 treats. And just wander around the yard, and the goal is not to get the treats as fast as possible, it's to get him to get distracted and then refocus on you. And I'd like you guys to do that once a day each for a week. The next stage is after about 2 or 3 days, start doing this, incorporating a little, do the same thing I just talked about, doing that for a week. But now we're going to also start coming out when the dogs are playing together and asking them to stop playing. Not when the energy gets like to a crescendo, you can certainly do that, but it's going to be harder to get them to come. When they're playing, look at their energy level and have them practice coming to you when they're energy 3, energy 5, this is scale 1 to 10. Until we can get to the point where they will stop playing at any point and come over to us, because that gets them some attention. So they're almost about to start playing. Stanley, come. Come. So now we're helping them practice interrupting play and coming over. So this makes it when you go to the dog park and you actually call him over to you, he has practice of doing that. But we're a ways from getting there. The way to get there is, again, practice every day this week, each one of you guys, for about 10 treats. Then after about 2 or 3 days, start doing it when they do playtime as well, with about 10 treats. The next stage is start going for walks with them. But on a walk, do a couple of these in the house. Make sure you practice that exercise that I talked about, stopping the leashing process till he's leashed up completely calm. And then do a couple of these inside the house when he's on the leash. Sit, and then walk a couple, sit. I'll walk a couple feet away, do it a couple of times in the house, then go outside. As soon as you close your door, ask for another sit right there and click and give him the treat. Then take a couple steps towards the sidewalk. When you first start doing this, I don't want you to take more than 5 steps before you ask him to do something. Until you get to the point where you're maybe 2 or 3 houses away from your house. So every 5 steps you're asking him to sit or lay down or whatever it is. He is like dialed into you instead of focusing on everything else. Then I want you to start walking him, and on walks, whenever he starts getting distracted, now if he's sniffing, don't call him when he's sniffing. When he's just kind of just doing his thing, every once in a while, ask him to come back to you and sit, give him the treat. Click when he sits and give him the treat. Also, one of his problems is when he's on a walk, he's focused on everything but the walk. And so he doesn't sniff. So one of the little tricks we talked about off camera, I'd like the Guardians to get some finely shredded cheese, go out on the walk, the route that you're going to take ahead of taking him. So go out there and just take a little bit of shredded cheese, put it here, go to the next place on the other side of the sidewalk. So it's not always in consistently the same place. So then when you get there, kind of tap, and then he'll use his nose like this to find it. Dogs should use their nose. It's very stimulating, very relaxing. And so now, when he's on a walk, now he's starting to use his nose looking for this cheese. The first walk or two, you'll probably have to tap and point it out. But after a while, he'll start looking for it, and make sure you kind of get creative with where you're hiding it. Not hiding it, but having it discoverable. And remember, when he's walking, he's going to burn more energy by sniffing on a walk than he is from walking. So that's awesome. Just a little celebrate right there. That's perfect. So the idea for this is we want to make sure that we're starting to help him relate to being a dog and doing more natural dog activities like sniffing. If you go to the dog park, putting cheese down is probably not going to be ideal, but the dog park is going to have a lot of smells like from these other dogs. So we like him when he is sniffing. You can even make that a clickable sort of thing. So when he's in your backyard, or if he's looking at the cheese, you could say, and then give him a treat and say investigate, or some word that means to look for, sniff the ground. And so if you could actually create this a command word, if he's kind of staring at another dog and you say, droppings or whatever it is that means to sniff the ground, and he starts sniffing the ground, if the other dog sees him staring at that dog, that's a bit of a challenge, and that's usually a fight start with staring. So if he's staring at the other dog and then you say sniffies and he starts sniffing the ground, the dog looks at him and is like, oh, he's not even looking at me. So you can help dial down the other dog's energy. Also remember to take him for a walk before, or to exercise him before you go to the dog park. You sit, 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 sit. All right, well, this is Solo. This is Stanley. I'm David. These are some tips and tricks you can use if you have a dog that does not pay attention to you when you're outside or on walks.